ultimately later I kind of felt there was just an underrepresentation for something that I desired in the art. And that was something more gory, something more visceral, something that made you feel something different.
What up, y'all? I'm Steve, and welcome to another exciting Elev8, where we sit down with some cool ass artists in this industry. First, we have this really cool ambassador program. You can join as an Elev8 doll or an Elev8 gent, and it's really awesome. You get to help us build Elev8. It's super unique, super special, and you're really a part of something special. Check out Elev8ambassador.com to learn more. Another cool thing we have is our Elev8 Veterans program. I'm really honored to be a part of it. Teresa helps run it, and it's super awesome. We get to rehabilitate and reacclimate veterans into society our way. And you know what? I think we're doing it right. Go check it out at Elev8veterans.com. Third, there's Elev8 Bingo. It's super cool, super fun, and we get to show you more of what we do. And on top of that, every game there's a chance to win $50 credits for Elev8glassgallery.com. Go check it out. And now let's roll into the super awesome Elev8. Welcome, we got Elev8 and Orphan Glass here today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited, man.
Hey, thanks so much. Glad for having me.
Hell yeah. So my first main question that I like to ask is, how did you get into glass blowing? Glass blowing is crazy. You got to be nuts to do it because it's fucking hard, and it's fucking hard. Like, excuse my language.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, I like to say if you cannot do it, then that's probably smart. You know, but for me, for compulsion, you know what I mean? Like you would do wise to do something better with yourself, maybe not better, but you know what I mean, more lucrative or maybe more sustaining or more immediately gratifying. But like I said, for me, it really comes down to this compulsion. When I first was introduced to glass, I mean, obviously my budget for it was small, as was my budget for art at the time. But of course, I grew this intense appreciation for it. And, you know, you just gawk at what these people do. And you're like, you know, how the hell did he do that? How do you do that? And then ultimately later, I kind of felt there was just an underrepresentation for something that I desired in the art. And that was something more gory, something more visceral, something that made you feel something different than, oh, that's cool, which is a great feeling, right? Oh, that's cool. That's an awesome thing. It feels great, especially like when you have it in front of you, you can have it and hold it and be like, this is awesome. That's such a cool feeling. But I felt like none of the glass that I was seeing, for the most part, in my little neck of the woods, would make you go, ugh, or wow, I do really, for whatever reason, this makes me feel, you know, in a certain way. And so I wanted to offer something that made people feel different and kind of stuck with them a little bit.
And I think you hit something there because, you know, like horror movies and being scared and just the kind of the darker side of life, that's something that I think the majority of people somewhat gravitate towards. It's why Halloween has become almost bigger than Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think it's maybe because we all know that we have a crazy inner monster inside of us, and it's how we have to tame that thing. I mean, we're apex predators. We're here to annihilate, and so that's evil, and it's scary, and it's this, and so that's really neat. I think that you found that and wanted to bring that out, like our innerness.
100%. That's 100%. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I'm doing. Is I'm taking some of my angers and some of my frustrations, and then of course my influence from years and years and years, like a lot of people, of watching horror, obscure things, and just kind of bringing that to the forefront, on top of a respect for noted horror files like Tom Savini and you know, hundreds of others who just have this love for making something that is at times whimsical and at times dark, but always has this kind of visceral feel. And it's something that you can attach yourself to, you know, in some small way.
Right. Hell yeah. How did you get your glass name then?
That's a good question. I am an orphan, surprise, surprise. That's true. So, you know, a lot of people have, in my experience, a tough time kind of figuring out who they want to be in glass, what they want their first and last name in glass. You know what I mean? To like
just in life, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. To symbolize who they are and what kind of art they're making and kind of how those things come together. For me, like a lot of my art, it wasn't a decision. It's something that kind of already I had. And so it's just, that's what you push forward. You are an orphan. And then it kind of follows suit with my art. A lot of the art that I deal with falls under the theme of being unwanted. Now, like bloody things, thrown away things, specifically in horror, I think like the movies Carrie or Basket Case, or some of these other ones where these main characters have identity crises and the horrors kind of wrought upon them until they get some little modicum of revenge, And so these unwanted things kind of push me to want to continue to offer something that is different from what the normal glass scene offers.
Right. Yeah, man, I can't even imagine, growing up as an orphan. It's just a different world that I just don't know. So I don't know that perspective. And, I think a lot of people don't know that perspective. And I can't even imagine, the changes and those feelings of that, especially as a young child, man. So I bet that has really made you who you are and really given you a tough skin to get through life and be able to get up through shit.
That's funny. Yeah, absolutely. I would say it gives me a different perspective. And at this juncture in life, when, I'm not in the murk and mire of, survival at, 16 and 18 of being an orphan, things of that nature. Now I can really say, it comes with some positives and it comes with some negatives. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty resilient person, but also, I might have some like interpersonal things, but like anyone else, it's just a matter of kind of using your time to gain some coping mechanisms. And back to the art, that's exactly what a lot of this stuff is for me. It's an expression of, some angst I have and some kind of angers and some kind of issues that I'm dealing with. And then when you watch my page on the internet, or you kind of follow me a little bit, you come to see this like really angry style and this really pervasive kind of bitterness throughout my art. But then when you know me, and my friends can contest to this, that I'm actually really a well-adjusted person that's easy to get along with, and I care about my people. And a lot of the reason I'm able to be that is because I've spent hours, 12 hours, just, pouring out every bit of anger and every bit of, narcissism and hate and everything angry I can feel into my glass. And hopefully I can give the customer a piece of that, and they can see that and be like, wow, when they say to their friend, I got this sick piece, man. I got this sick thing I want to show you. And their friend goes, I've seen some sick shit before. I like to see some sick shit. And they come over there and they're like, wow, okay, that really is pretty sick. That
right.
I didn't know you meant 6'6". So.
Right. Hell yeah, man. I love that. And so how long have you been on the torch now? When did you start? What year?
Oh, shoot, I'm bad with years, but I have been on the torch for about 5.5 years. So that's really kind of a small time in the world of glass. You know what I mean? I'm essentially what some might consider wildly a newcomer.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's all stages, and it's really your heart that goes into it. I got to do a class with Bondu, and in it, we worked with him who has 45 years experience, and there was a girl at 6 months. And
right.
It's the love of glass. It's that we're all stupid in the class doing this stupid shit, playing with 6 mil rods and wasting a bunch of time. And just really, it's a meditation, and it really is about like, so it's not that us blowers are stupid or crazy or this or that, which we are, but it's
something to everything.
yeah, it's one of the most amazing therapies, I believe, that I've ever had. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I have a friend who talks quite often about meditative states in glass, and I personally, just the kind of person I am, I'm not huge on meditation or yoga or things like that. I have my own releases, but I absolutely have found glass to be a respite for, whether I'm feeling upset or angsty. And, things go on in life, and, it's a minutia all the time. So when things go awry, you can always count on the glass to be there and to be a reflection for you and to bring you to a state, because if you're not in the right state, then it's not going to behave the way that it needs to. So it can kind of ground you, and you can kind of have that moment of stillness, if you will, to just really concentrate and think about something, take yourself out of the moment and kind of look at it from an outside perspective. And it definitely it helps me a lot just to get through the rest of the day, to get through the rest of the things that challenge me, because glass is the most honest thing that I've ever encountered in my life. As far as the feedback, there's no lying. You must be honest at what happened here, what went wrong, what went right. And when you go, oh, it was X's fault, well, you've already messed up, because the truth is it's always you. It's what
100%. Well, I'll say 95%, because sometimes you are trying a new color and you didn't realize that it is a shitty color. And this was more so back in the days than now. But you're right.
But it's about taking out all those factors that can mess it up. So if you're doing, your 85% of the work, then it only has to pull 15%. But if you're doing less and 40% and 30%, then, how can that ever work?
Dude, I love this conversation, man. Have you had any mentors or anything throughout your years of blowing glass here?
Now, that's an interesting question. I got a mentor a little bit later after I had learned some things. I was, at first, I'll just give you my brief genesis. I was brought into a shop. I was like, how can I get involved? I want to get involved like many people. And, I was kind of put off, kind of like Fight Club, it's like stand on the porch until, just go away. And, I just kept coming around and kind of being a positive presence around the people I was with. And then eventually, a situation arose where they were like, we're moving here, we're getting into a new spot. If you help us kind of set this situation up, which means, come break your back for us, we'll let you start renting space over here. And at the time, it's like, whatever I got to do, I'm going to just do it. I knew that I wanted it at that point. And so I did that, and I picked up so many skills about building shops and shop safety and how, infrastructure works and all this stuff before I ever put hands on a torch. Which was just that was a beautiful thing to get in there. And that's the thing about like what you want in life. You got to know what you want. You got to get into it, whether it's school or something. Guess what? You're probably going into fucking debt, because you got to, if it's for money, you got to work for it later. If it's now, you got to put in the time for it. If it's cleaning toilets or whatever the fuck, so be it, because you're going to get that skill, and you don't even know the skill you're going to get. You thought it was just glass. And you got all this other infrastructure by being in the real world. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot to be said for paying dues. And, when you come into a situation like glass, if you don't have your mind right and realize that it's going to take X amount of time, and you do need to pay X amount of dues before you get, wherever you hope to begin to start going where you're going, you know what I mean? Like to set yourself up. And at the moment it was very frustrating, but now I look back, of course, and I'm like, what a blessing to have, been exposed to these things. But at the time, you're rip snorting and you're just like, let me get on the torch, let me make something awesome. Not even realizing that when you get on there, oh yeah, where's the start button?
And it goes back almost like, dude, Karate Kid, man, wax on, wax off. Why the fuck are you making me clean this car? I'm tired of it. But no. Trust me, when it's time to defend yourself or create something, you're going to be able to pull these skills out and be ready, even if it is running a business or whatever it is. So it's like, if you find a good mentor, and it sounds like you did, then that mentor will help you get on the right path for whatever you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the story is a little different than that for me. So I helped these guys make this shop, and then I was invited in to rent space. And at that time I thought, cool, I'm going to get in here and they're going to show me how to do the thing. And I'll kind of be going my own way or whatever. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, just because I knew what was represented in the art space, and I knew what I wanted to do personally.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I just need these fundamental skills and I'll get going on that direction. Okay. But what I didn't realize is, as nice as these guys were and letting me come in and letting me work in that space and sharing the air with me, they were busy. They had their own shit going on. These are people with families and they're feeding their families off this stuff. So guess what? They don't have time to, show me the intricate delicacies of the thing. It's like really quick. Hey, I need to do this, or I want to do this. And so often the question you get back is, well, what are you going to do with that thing when you make it? And it's like, oh, well, this is just step one. I don't even know, So largely I was left to my own devices for a couple of years. And to my own kind of fault, I kept barking up that tree, honestly. I kept kind of wanting to go to these guys who were clearly busy and say, how do I get going with what I'm doing? And they, just kind of, I could talk to you for 10 minutes when I'm done doing what we're doing, and we can smoke, and then I'm going to leave and go to my family and do my other obligations, but I don't really have time to get into it with you or watch over your shoulder or whatever you want. And, and let me make it clear, these guys are proto guys.
Right. So awesome, they have to knock stuff out, but they have a very sharp skill set. Like,
absolutely. So these guys are really good at what they're doing. But then I had this misconception that they were capable because they had so many years under their belt. I thought, okay, cool. These guys can show me how to get where it is I want to go over here. Okay. But what I didn't realize is these guys are so far over here that the skills don't necessarily translate. And one day I was really in, those minutiae that you get when glass is frustrating you and you're just not seeing the results you want, when you're having to pour those hours and hours in. And I was talking to my friend and I said, why don't they show me? Why don't they give me what it is that I'm hungry for, that I need so much? And he looked at me and it hit me like lightning. He said, well, they don't know how.
Right.
And I thought, okay, right. They are accomplished and they do have this, X amount of years in doing what they're doing, but they have 0 years in doing what I'm doing.
Right. And that goes to the beautifulness of glass and what can make a glass blower crazy and lose somebody's wife and whatnot because the fucking rabbit holes. And so these guys went down the production rabbit holes, did well here. And it's not that they can't do what you needed to do. They got skills here and they could advance over here. Right. That's not their focus because that's one rabbit hole and it's just a fucking spider webs of rabbit holes. And
they haven't pursued that. So they don't have a lot of accomplishments in that area, and neither do I. And so once he hit me with that, it was so important to me, that information that it's so often like that in glass where someone says something to you and you have that aha moment later where you're like, oh, that's what it meant. And that's what they were talking about. And it all kind of becomes clear. And at that moment, for me, it all became clear that, you haven't seen what you want out there. How the hell can anybody teach you what's in here?
Right.
So that was just a changing moment for me. And then I used that blessing that they gave me and came and built my own shop, which is behind me now, and put my own stuff together. Not that I don't work there or have association there, but I needed a space of my own to indulge all of my influences. And that means, a lot of loud music, a lot of horror movies playing constantly, macabre decoration, just everything that I need to make the art that I'm trying to pursue. Right. That was so important for me. And then to just get away from the idea that I needed someone to show me where I was going.
Do you find that? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was wondering.
I was going to say,
no, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, once that happened, it really cleared the air for me. And then I was able to start asking the right questions, of myself, essentially, like, okay, how do I want it to look like? Not like, how do you replicate this, or how do you, and there's a lot to that, getting skills that you can, build upon. And right. So you want to be strong in your base skill set. But once you have that area down, it's like, okay, you need to make a hard decision which way you want to go, and you really need to pursue that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you find that you are maybe also deep down, like maybe kind of a hermit. I find a lot of glass blowers are really like inner and hermitized. I don't know what the word is. But
No, I get I get what you're saying. Absolutely. No, absolutely not. I'm a 100% a collaborative artist. I got into this because I wanted to put my ugly on their beautiful, and I wanted them to beautify my ugly. I thought I do offer something that no one else does. I am very individualistic in my art. If I see something, or I start down a path and a buddy of mine sends me some videos and goes, "Hey, this guy's killing this, same kind of tech," I tend to shy away from it. I go a different direction because I want to be my own person a lot. Like I'm trying so hard to be myself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mindset all the time. And yeah, I want to put myself all over yourself. I mean, isn't that kind of a lot of what we do here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have you got to take any classes then throughout your career besides working next to people?
Yeah. Once I hit that wall and jumped over it, and I realized I was my own person in this and I needed to do my own thing, immediately I started reaching out to other artists and finding out where to get these skill sets. And then 100%, they were like, you got to take some classes, you got to get linked up in these networks, and you got to do some of this, again, to the footwork. Mm-hmm. And so I tracked down some local places. Obviously, you look on the internet, and of course there's a class, thousands of miles away, across the nation in 5 days. And you're like, I could never afford that. But it's really about tracking down something that is somewhat reasonable in your area. Of course, you're going to have to drive or maybe fly to get to it, but make something reasonable, pursue these things, count your $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500, whatever it's going to cost. Count that as investment in yourself and as investment in your assets, because every time I go to one of these, whether it be a class or a social event or a trade show or any kind of these things, I come back to my shop invigorated. The creativity is so thick in the air, it's like cotton candy. You could just pull that shit out and eat it, and just, it's so good. It's so thick in the air. And there's really, and again, not being a hermit, I am a social person. You will see me at events, whether it be Melt or DFO or whatever, a Michigan Glass Project, whatever it is, and you'll see me out there in the mask for way too many hours, needing to take a rest. But I want to be out there. I want to be a member of my community, because as an orphan, as someone who represents, like I said, these unwanted things, the glass community has been, bar none, the most accepting community. No matter what crazy bullshit you pull up, they're like, "Oh, that's wild. That's nuts. Let me check out how you do. Oh, that I could totally kind of, use, and we could get together and do these things." And it's just such a good feeling to get these validation. And it goes from top to bottom, where big guys will take a minute and talk to you. And of course, there's going to be a few outliers who are going to, we're too cool for school, or, they big shot you and, just cruise by. Well, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about.
And like you said, they're outliers. The industry really is full of so many, and those, they're like anywhere else. The world's full of assholes, and that's okay. And it's not like that. Yeah. Again, we don't know if they're too big or their lives are too crazy, whatever it is, but they're outliers in this industry. Most people are just.
Absolutely. Most people want to get with you. They want to, feel your kind of aura and just see what you're about. And it's such a blessing. And I love to bring up the story of Sylvia Plath. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Sylvia Plath.
No, huh?
She's an interesting character. Now, this lady was obsessed with death. So what it was like kind of to see what the other side was, maybe just a smidge. Okay. So nuts, right? Back in the days of gas stoves and shit, she'd turn her gas stove on and set a timer and stick her head in there. Right. And she'd go out, and then the timer would go off, and she'd wake up. Right. And then she'd write about it in her journals.
What if you don't wake up?
The point is, thank God that she was willing to do that.
Right.
So that I don't have to. And so that you don't have to, right? She did that, and she took the time out of her schedule, and their personal interest. So in the very same way in glass, I look at these guys, whether they be proto guys or whether they be milli guys specifically, or, ready guys, or whatever it is that they, decided to kind of center in on as their particular art style. I think, thank goodness for them, because they got that and they locked it down and they're killing the game. And
Right.
I can do what I want to do, not feeling like, oh shit, I need to learn how to get really good at readies. No, what I need to do is make my shit good enough, nice enough, and cool enough that the guy who's really good at readies is like, oh, let me put my readies on it. Let's, and that's the hope in this. And you just have to be back to honesty. You have to be honest with yourself and realize what it is out there that you're against. There's an industry standard. You need to get to that standard.
Absolutely.
But you need to bring all of yourself with it. So it's
you always have to do you. Otherwise, your life is like, it's not your life really. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of takes on this stuff. If you're a craftsman and you're thinking, look, man, I can make these recyclers cleaner than anybody else and I can do this. I want you to do that. That's all. You need those recyclers. People want them. Of course they do. You're getting paid off them. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's more of a craftsman's view on the situation. And personally, I can't speak for the next person, but for me, coming strictly from an art sense, it makes sense to me to make things that come outside of me and I feel have expressed something that I wanted, and to do something original. Because if it's already done, I just don't really see the purpose. I would, there's an art industry for us all to eat. And you know what? Here's another thing that early on I had to really just cotton with, and that is the idea that maybe I won't ever be rich and famous off this shit. More than likely, in fact, I won't ever be rich and famous off this shit. So if that's my pursuit, it needs a whole kind of another look and avenue to go down. Many artists over, centuries and centuries have died in obscurity. And so if the art itself can't sustain you, then maybe you should do something a little more craftsman-like and, a little more production style. But for me personally, like I said, it's deeply a compulsion to offer these things that I feel are maybe a little bit unwanted and uncared for. And then I'm going to show them the love and bring them to a level that when I offer them, you will see the value.
And obviously you have found a niche there because people want your stuff. So I think that's really awesome as well.
It's always flattering, unless they say, I got this for Halloween. I don't know why, but just because maybe I make shit all year round in June and whatever other months, and they're like, yes, Halloween score. I'm like, is it though? Is it? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But no, I'm always super flattered when people, appreciate what I'm doing, because I realize, where I'm going with it and how it's supposed to be a bit repulsive. It's supposed to, create these emotions in you that are at first you're thinking, nah, I don't know about that. But hopefully it'll grow on you and you can find some appreciation for these orphans I'm creating.
Hell yeah. What is your preferred style or technique that you like to do?
Coming down to art, it really is very inclusive. Now, like I said, I don't like to step on anybody's toes at all. And there are masters, whether, you want to go make some wood grain or you want to go make some, frit work or whatever you kind of want to do. There's definitely someone out there who's, crushing that area. So I envelope whatever I think the singular piece of art needs, and I'll pursue that a little bit. Like I said, I make weapons quite often. So the handles needed to be wood grain. And I'm not the wood grain guy by any stretch, but I do make wood grain in order to make my own pieces.
Because that's what you needed. So you found that technique. And so you basically, you like the technique that you need in your environment right now.
Absolutely. And so I chase many things, and, it does possibly make some of the parts of my art a little weaker, but that's only for the moment. I need 20 years as much as the next guy.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about the art, is trying to grasp all the tools at once. Because if you only got one thing, again, it pigeonholes you. And that's where you were saying, I need to venture out and find more techniques. So, right.
Absolutely. And that's why taking classes is so important. Like I said, that investment in yourself, because you'll come back and you'll be like, all right, I know 3 new things, and I know 4 things to shore up the things that I used to know. So all across the board, I'm offering something better, and that you can see it come right through your hands. And if you just practice the methods that you've been given and bend it to your own nefarious will, don't just do what they gave you. Like, your mind should immediately be thinking, how can I take that and pervert it in some way? Turn it inside out and turn it on its head and show these people that I'm me. That's immediate. As soon as you teach me how to make a millie, I'm thinking, okay, how can I make pentagram millies? How can I make little ogres? I want to do stuff that hasn't been done before. I ventured into dichro quite a bit.
That's fun stuff.
The large reason why I went into dichro is because the typical dichro outlets weren't offering me something that I wanted. They had beautiful designs, Sacred Geo and Skull, Thunder. I'm not sure what the Grateful Dead skull with the thunderbolt, and just these kinds of things are offered. But the thing is, I've seen those, and I've seen them for 20 years.
Right.
And so they just weren't offering me something that I could use. So I started doing it myself, and it was, just this long, drawn out process. But ultimately, when I got done with it, I really had these neat kind of dark and satanic images that I could use for my marbles and make something, again, that's individual to anyone else.
Right. Hell yeah. What's your favorite color to use if you had to choose a color or so?
That's a wonderful question. I'm not biased toward any color. I'm not afraid of using CADs or anything. Like I said, my art largely dictates what it is that I should be doing in that moment. So right. What it is, a lot of times it's like, okay, what color do I need? That's going to be really difficult. And then I'll get in there and I'll kind of just tinker around with that color until I have some understanding of what needs to go. And then again, reach out to your contemporaries, because people that have a relationship with you and care for you don't have any problem answering your questions if they're the right questions. Mm-hmm. If you're not just immediately asking the first stupid thing that comes to mind. If you go and try it yourself a little bit and then you're having some issues, that's the question they want. I tried this 3 times. I've run into a brick wall. Here's what I'm experiencing. How do you get over that?
It's not just the problem, it's the problem with solution. And what's better, if you have a problem with a solution that is still a problem. And then it's like, all right, you've done the effort. Fuck yeah. And oh yeah.
And people want to see that. People want to know that, you're not just coming up to me begging for what you can get, that you're actually, people love to see people helping themselves, and they love to help people who are helping themselves.
Absolutely.
So if you're doing that, they're like, hell yeah, I can get on board with that, because when a time comes around, I know you're a person that's already helping themselves, and I might need something, or even if I don't, people like to see that, and that's where they want to invest themselves.
Absolutely. It feels good to help people. It's a rewarding thing to be able to be in a situation to help somebody. Like, because both of those positions exist. It's a yin and a yang, and who needs help? Yeah, there's somebody to help.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
What color do you not like? What would you not like to work with?
I mean, no one loves to work with Wisteria. I mean, it's just a bit of a pain. It's easy to mess up. But again, it seems that that's the color I get asked for most often sometimes.
So you've had to fight through those battles and learn it.
Absolutely. And earlier in your career, you'll go through situations, I guarantee it, where you'll think, I want to do this thing with this color. And your contemporaries will tell you, no, you can't do that thing with that color. And it's a good idea for you to tell them, fuck off, maybe in your mind only. But right, to ignore that and go try it. And then you'll see, you'll really come to all right, I did it. It messed up just like they said they would. They knew something I didn't know. I've heard it said, a wise man learns from his own mistakes, but a wiser man will learn from the mistakes of others.
Right.
So you do that kind of shit a few times. You take some leprechaun green and you encase it deep in a marble, and it doesn't survive. And even if it does, all the green has crackles all around it. It just looks,
What happened?
really negative. And you think, okay, that's what they meant. And then the next time they're like, don't do this with this. You go, yeah, probably because of that thing that they told me last time. Like
Right.
That's how that shit works. And then you start getting to the right questions. You hit up your homie and you go, hey man, I was thinking about using this color under this color. You think that's decent? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I did that all the time. Or, oh, don't touch that. That's a bad idea. And then you can still try it in small portions and, maybe figure it out somehow. But you have some guidance somewhere to kind of take off from, if you will.
And that goes back almost to like when you're a kid, I don't have kids, but at some point you got to let that motherfucker burn themselves on the stove, because that's the only point when you know what hot means. Like they tell you, don't touch it. It's hot. Well, this is hot and this is hot. What?
Yeah.
You don't know until you burn it. You're like,
100%. That's a very good metaphor for what it is. And you do need to do that in glass sometimes. You need to go down something that you kind of know might fail, but you're like, okay, maybe if I can just twist up the recipe a little bit or water this color down or something, maybe I can achieve this goal. And, these things build kind of resilience within you, and you need to be able to bounce back when something fails and something goes wrong and not, get very, very emotional. Now, having said that, what we do is highly emotional, or at least what I'm doing is highly emotional. Okay, I'm in here pouring my soul out and many, many hours of my life, and at times thinking, is this a waste? Am I doing something that, isn't important, even though I'm here and it feels so important? It feels so necessary that I do this with my life. But you get to those moments when you're like, dang, did I make a bad decision all them years ago? But that's where your resilience comes in, where you grab a hold of your base self and say, okay, what are my goals and where do I want to be? And I know that if I wake up and put one foot in front of the other toward that goal, that's going to happen for me. One of two things: I'm either going to reach my goals or I'm going to eventually expire. Not that that's like the negative thing. I don't mean that in that horrible.
No, that's just the reality. We all have an expiration date. We just don't know it quite yet.
Exactly. So I'm running towards my goals up until that expiration date. And, as far as like fears in life and things, that's, I think, one of my greatest fears that's developed is not the fear of death, but the fear of what is going to be on my bench when I expire. Is it going to be an unfinished thing and how much of this art am I able to get out of myself between now and that unknown time? And so I want to be hugely prolific in art. I want to bear much fruit. I want to be able to offer as much as I can, while at the very same time, I refuse to head a shop, if you will, and have underlings making my thing. Again, not that I have anything against that. I understand why that might be necessary for a certain type of setup. But for me, it's a singular person making a singular art that means so much to me.
And that's what it's about. You gotta be you. You gotta be true to you, because you're the most important person in the world, and you got to do what is right for you. So, and that's just what makes the whole world work, is there's all these different niches. So it be a production or an individual thing or whatever. So life.
Right. Whatever you can be proud of, whatever you can hold on to and say, this sustains me and this kind of works for me, and look at the way I'm living my life. Am I happy? Most of the time, 80%, 75%, am I doing well? Am I healthy? All these things. And really, glass has given me so much back. I always tell the young guys, I am a young guy, but guys just starting, I'll tell them, you got to give 100% of yourself to this thing, 100%, and it will give you back 102%, 103%. Now, this is not a huge margin of return, but if you can sustain on 3%, I'm telling you, it's the happiest I've ever been, and it's changed my life in so many ways. It's got me working out because I want to extend the time between now and I expire so that I can create as much as I can. It's got me thinking in that way. It's got me thinking about my relationships outside. I want to be this person who's respected. I'm not greedy for money. I'm not greedy for, all of these things that people want. People are really flashy a lot nowadays. I'm not greedy for that. I'm greedy for respect of my contemporaries. I want people that I respect and people that have gone the distance to say, look, I've seen where you've gone and I've seen where you came from. And goddamn, if that ain't something special. And that's all I really want. And if I can achieve that, not that, you care about if someone likes or dislikes your art. Obviously, I had to get over that early because there's many, many detractors for the kind of art that I make. And I'm comfortable with that. I almost went into it with that aforethought. But at the same time, you want something that you are 100% proud of and you can stand behind and offer it. And then those people who do appreciate it will just light up and you will have made their day. They'll be like, this is special. This is something else.
And no matter what, that's the thing. There's what, 7 billion people in the world. So if you are just you, there is enough people out there that will support you. And it's just that simple. You have to work hard. You have to put in the work. You have to do that. And you said something about greedy, like greedy can be this bad word or this or that. And I've heard it used bad and this and that. Every word, like anything, has a pro and a con. But fuck yeah, there's nothing wrong with greed. It's when you're greedy and maybe you do something wrong to enhance that greed. But fuck no, man. I want more of something, whatever I want, because I feel, I need that for something. And that's going to enhance my life or enhance my dream or whatever it is, whether it's money or just a bunch more soda, I don't know. And that soda's stupid, right? Or whatever it is in your life, you need to be greedy for it.
Sure. Achieve your dreams and really reach out for them. There's so many who aren't living their dreams. And I mean, they got reasons, all the reasons in the world.
I call them excuses.
I mean, and you empathize with people and you go, it is hard to really get this thing going. But I feel like for me, at least, when I saw what I wanted, I knew that it was going to take, like we said, a lot of paying dues and a lot of kind of being poor times and a lot of, sacrifices in order to get where I was going. But I just looked at history, really. I just looked at art throughout history. And I decided, you know what? Yeah, I fit right in those guys. I will sacrifice. I will stand up for what I believe in. I will make this art regardless of how other people feel about it. And as the world changes and as things move around, it's so easy to be taken in the wrong light or to be looked at in a pejorative manner, and especially where I'm coming from. Someone sees a piece of my art. It's bloody, it's gory, it's got these satanic symbols on it. It's got all these things going on. And someone says, oh, that person must be, disturbed or whatever, or however. And let them, because that really doesn't affect what I'm doing. What I'm doing, like I said, it comes from compulsion. I need to leave this on this planet. That's what I've got to do. I don't know what you got to do. You should look after it. But for me,
right,
I got to do this shit.
I love it, man. Have you ever competed in any events before?
Yeah, absolutely. My buddy Matt King, were in the Glass Vegas. Now I'm having trouble remembering the competition there. World Series of Glass, that's the one.
Oh,
World
right,
Series
right.
of Glass. We entered a Morning Star, which is a spiked ball on a chain connected to a handle. And so the handle was a pipe and the spiked ball had a nice deep vortex in it. It was a pretty substantial 2.5-inch spiked marble. Like I said, with attached chain, it was fully functional. I mean,
right,
as much as weapons can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you said you've also been to Melt and whatnot. How are those events?
If you're an artist and you're thinking about going, and you can in any way swing the financial burden of doing it, I 100% recommend it. I was so charged up after my first Melt. I came home and I didn't stop blowing glass for, it had to be close to 3 weeks. Like every day I was on. And you should really be taking breaks, every 5-6 days. You should really take a day off or, just do something else with yourself. It's good advice, trust me.
It's good advice. But do you follow it?
Beg your pardon?
Do you follow that advice?
I'm as bad as anyone. When I really get going, it's hard to pull yourself out. You get excited. And if you work enough, you dream about glass. And so things are happening in your head, and you'll wake up and you just run out to the shop.
But it's
just
not work then. It's just experiencing your fucking life.
Right. And then, like I said, it's that you finding flow. That's the magic word for us glassblowers. That's that meditative state where you're just, time flies by and you don't realize that you're in it until you're like, I am starving and my body is breaking down. But you just feel so accomplished and so good on those days. Those are the days when things are going right. When, things are going wrong, they're sometimes shorter days, or, rougher days, or what have you.
Right. Do you consume cannabis yourself?
Yeah, I am a pot smoker. I was a pot smoker when it was still highly illegal. And, I experienced that, and I was never really a criminal in any particular way. I was a kid being bad from time to time, but I never really was a criminal other than I had a pocket full of weed. So at any given time I could go to jail, which was,
nuts.
An interesting way to live your life. Yeah. And now that it's not illegal, I asked someone, an elder of mine, and I said, are you jealous? Are you mad? Does it upset you in any way that you worked so hard for so many years, and this particular person had smuggled some weed in on a plane, and done some kind of more scary things, in the name of marijuana alone, not like they were a coke dealer or anything of that nature,
right.
Just this weed, and then fighting to get it legalized and all of this stuff. And I was like, are you upset? Does it bother you that these kids or young adults can roll into this place and roll out, and they're all flashy with it and bling bling or whatever it is? And she was like, no, not at all. This is what we work for.
It is what.
And it hit me again like lightning. I was like, oh my goodness, why am I such a hater? What is my problem? Right? Again, it goes back to self-examination. It's like, what's wrong with me that I would dislike this? It's just a matter of
it's just the unknowing, right? It's a perspective. It's not knowing. It's needing to have the conversation. It's why I think all speech should be free. Nobody should be banned of anything. Let the hate speech go, because those people are going to get clouded over by everything anyways. Like,
they'll educate you in one way or another, just like she educated me. And every time you talk to somebody and you have this preconceived notion, they will educate you and you'll get closer to the truth. I truly believe that, like you, that communication is the best way we can get closer.
It goes both ways. It's the only way.
Yeah. And as an orphan, I truly believe that people are alone. And this is something that's really tough. I was talking to a depressed friend of mine at one point, and I said, or he had known that I had talked about my kind of feelings about people ultimately being alone. And he's going through a rough time. And he says, do you really still believe that? And, I had to say, yes, I do believe that there's no true connection between two people. Even if you love them and marry them and live your lives together, there will be moments where you will think, this person does not understand me. They don't get it. They can't see through my eyes. Now, having said that, communication is the only telephone that we have, is the only line that we have to get you closer.
And if you don't pick it up, you can't hear what the motherfucker's saying.
100%. So I might not be able to get you on my square, but through communication, I can get you to understand how I view it and how I got there. And likewise, I want to know why you feel X way about it. And, obviously some of these things take some self-examination, but pursuit of goals is a good way to get exposed to some harsh self-examination. And in life, it will only make you a better person. I truly believe that.
Right. I agree 100%. Do you have any hobbies outside of glass?
Absolutely. I really feel that people who have only one interest are hugely boring. In fact, usually they suck to be around. You get around them and you talk for 10 or 15 minutes about that singular interest, and then you kind of wrap up the conversation and you go, well, and then normally you'd move into whatever else you had, and try to find some other common ground, but they'll just recycle back to that first shit because that's all they got. And that shit to me is just hugely kind of off-putting as a person. To me, a well-rounded person who has many interests and can pull from things, especially kind of interests that are quite separate from one another, so that you have what you might call like mental wasabi, a way to clean out your mind from this stuff and gain some perspective on it and see kind of like, you know, what it needs or what you're missing from what you're doing there. So absolutely, I'm a huge fan of obviously wrestling. I do wear a lucha mask while I work and at events and pretty much anytime I'm in public as the Orphan Kid. So I'm hugely into wrestling, be it historical, Japanese, Mexican, or some American wrestling in the indie scene. I love it. I grew up in that kind of a household, and it's just kind of been part of my things. Again, I'm hugely into horror movies. I constantly watch them or have them in the background while I'm creating art. I love music. I am, of course, a death metal fan, but I grew up in the West Coast, so I grew up with West Coast hip hop. I've grown to love like disco, acid jazz, and really just a myriad of music.
Acid jazz, baby. I love that stuff myself.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm interested in what's new, and the older I get, the more I realize that, you know, traditionally I maybe looked at things incorrectly, and maybe things deserve a second look. And as much as I love to learn, you come in Glass, you get these aha moments, and they feel so good. And let me tell you a little story. Before I became an orphan, I knew my aunt, and she died when I was about 8. But she used to tell me stuff, and I remember doing homework with her. And I was about 7, and I was having trouble with math. I've never been great at math. And I, you know, you could see I was just on the verge of tears, and I was just very frustrated. And she said, "Baby, do you feel dumb?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, I feel real dumb. She said, "Good. Because if you felt smart, you're done. We finished. You already know everything you need to know. But if you feel dumb, then you're in absolutely the right place." And she said, "Now pick up your lip and let's buckle down for a few more minutes." A few more minutes went by, and I figured it out.
And now you felt smart.
She said, "How you feel now, baby?" I felt better than smart. I felt elated. I felt insane. I felt a kind of experience that I've only found through learning. And now I'm so hungry for knowledge. I want you to tell me I'm wrong and show me that I'm wrong, because then I will have learned a new thing. I have a different perspective on it. I can follow that and kind of collectively use that in my new, you know, a tinfoil ball of knowledge. You know, I'm just slapping it on there all the time. So I love to be challenged, and Glass does that every day.
Absolutely. You know, it is a challenge.
Think about it.
Yeah, for sure. What can we look forward to in the future from you?
That's a good question. I am going to continue to pursue what it is I do, and that means just making whatever horrible things crawl out of the center of my black little soul. That's what I'm here to do. I am working on some flayed flesh tech. So that'll be basically pieces of skin wrapped to make bongs sewn together, and rigs and things of that nature. It's still very much under construction, but that's something that I have personal goals. I decided that I didn't want to make rigs and bongs until I was able to make it using my own tech. And then I had something to offer the industry that was uniquely my own. Mm-hmm. So there's a light representation of it from some early days Instagram page, but largely beyond like live videos. I put them out quite often. I'm very active in the daily videos portion of Instagram. So if you follow that at all, you'll see a lot of me going through the steps and kind of, you know, failing a lot essentially in order to get with this stuff. But I decided I wanted to A, work on my own art that I could offer, and B, figure out how I could be represented in the industry standard. And so that means following the way of these guys who are successful, your Darbys and your Rhinos, who have their individual pret that's immediately recognizable, have their what you might call gimmick or singular item that's immediately recognizable. And so mine are chainsaws. I've made hundreds of chainsaws by now, and I'm obsessed with chainsaws. Obviously, any horror fan can immediately why chainsaws. I have them tattooed all over my body. the idea is fantastic to me. So I started making chainsaws, pendants, and different attachments and things. So I always come with that stuff. And so yeah, just more is what I want to.
I love it
because, like I said, I am a little guy. So,
dude, I love it.
Thank you.
And where's the best place that we can follow you and find all your stuff at? Is it Instagram, Facebooks, shops? Do you have a website?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram. And like I said, you can follow daily things. I don't post as much as I should on the stories, or I'm sorry, on the posts. I do post on the stories quite often. So find me there. Now, I do sell to shops quite. So if there's shops out there who want my stuff, and I understand, often a shop is like, I can't buy 20 of these things because my attractiveness for this kind of thing is limited. So I work in a bit of a different way. So just get in contact, I'll let you know how that works. But anybody who wants something or needs something from me, I'm pretty easy to get in contact with and reach out to. And although I'm not everyone's best friend, I will treat you with respect and give you what you need from me as an artist.
Well, you know what, Orphan Glass, I had an amazing time here today. I'm great. Again, it was the event Las Vegas, where I was introduced to you, and we went forward here. Thank you so much for this. It was, dude, the conversation for me was fucking nothing but smiles and amazement. So,
man, I appreciate you guys having me, and I appreciate the platform. And really, it's only about me in so much one part of this industry or this community, really. And I feel like I, being the individual, is equally important to the next individual.
Absolutely.
So I'm a brick in this huge, container that is the glassblowing industry, which is, like you said, is a hugely positive and reaffirming industry of people who are not only like-minded, but they have something in common. It's almost like they've been to war together after X amount of time.
They're all crazy.
It's like what I know, and you know how this shit is. So, a little 2 points for you.